Hello, and welcome to the Create a Life You Love podcast. I'm your host, Chantel Cox. My purpose is to empower and lift up others who know in their heart they're meant for more. More joy, more impact, and more passion. If you're ready to make a radical transformation and create a life that you love, then you have come to the right place. Let's do this. Welcome everybody to today's episode of the Create a Life You Love video podcast, where we get to connect with people from all over the world to share tips and strategies designed to help you on your journey. I'm your host, Chantel Cox. I'm an author, speaker, transformation neurocoach, and certified life purpose coach. I specialize in helping women connect with their unique purpose and permanently remove the blocks that have been holding them back so that they can step into their full potential and live an aligned and fulfilling life of impact. So this is being streamed live. If you are with us, please feel free to put comments and questions in the chat, and we will get to them as it makes sense in the flow of our conversation. If you're catching the replay, you can still play along just as if you're live. Just use hashtag replay, and we will get back to you soon. So I'm super excited tonight to be here with Jean Tien. Jean is an energy healer, speaker, and author who will be sharing how you can embody your truth to create a life you love. Hello, Jean. How are you tonight?
Hey Chantel, how are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad to reconnect with you. I know we
Yes.
connected several months ago.
Yes.
And so it's just so fun that our paths are crossing again, and we got to kind of catch up a little bit before we hit go live, and so
Yep.
that's always fun. Where are you joining us from?
I am from New York, so I'm actually in Long Island, New York. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice and springy out today.
Oh, I'm jealous. Kansas has been rainy and gloomy
Oh,
yesterday and
sorry.
today. I'm ready for some spring sunshine. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How have you created a life that you love?
So it's a really good question. It's like, I was like, oh, wait, where do I even start with this question? It's interesting because I've had to pivot a couple of times in my career and in my life in order to truly create something that I love. And it's not something that ends here today or tomorrow. It's a constant journey in terms of the life that I love, because today I can love it, tomorrow I can hate it, right? And then it's really finding out like what's driving me. So kind of a little bit of backstory about who I am. I was always the good girl, firstborn daughter of immigrant parents who were very much into making sure we got the good education, good grades, all of the kind of check marks that they wanted for their children, right? To be able to live that American dream. And so that was very much what drove me when I was younger. And then from college, you hang out with friends who tend to be overachievers. And so got caught up in that as well. And, just kind of did what they did. I never really went and said, oh, this is really what I want to do, or even researched the different opportunities that were available to me. I just heard people wanted to do finance. It's prestigious, it's difficult to get in. And so, of course, I wanted what I couldn't have or what I thought I couldn't have and everybody else wanted. So I went into finance. Now, going into finance was an interesting choice. I definitely don't regret it, but it was a lot different than I expected it to be. And I don't think that I was well prepared for it. So I'll say, I'll put it like that. And at first it was fine. I was struggling within corporate for a little bit. And then eventually I found my way. Like my career was doing well. But then I thought that I always worked under the impression that if you are doing well at work, then that brings happiness, that brings the gold at the end of the rainbow, or the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? Because that's what society teaches us, that's what our parents taught us, etc. And as I was going through this career and as it was going in the right direction, I wasn't happy. I really wasn't. Like, I would wake up every morning. I remember about 5 years ago, I was close to my 40s, and I would wake up and I said, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not happy. And I don't want to do this every day. I cannot imagine waking up and going on this hamster wheel of getting my kids ready, getting myself ready, going to the train station, having to like pretend to be happy at work and then come back and, be able to have like energy and like the life put back into me after it was sucked out for like 8 hours a day, right? Or more, to be able to take care of my kids and be a good mom. And so it was a repeat pattern, and I wasn't happy. And so I started down this road of looking at what other options are there. And I came across spirituality, and something that I was already familiar with because I was already a practicing Buddhist. And so spirituality and Buddhism go very much hand in hand. So the concepts weren't new to me, but it was very much a different take on spirituality. And it was like a much deeper practice into what I wanted out of my life, right? And what I was comfortable doing, and getting clearer on what it was that I was meant to do, which I always knew wasn't, sitting in a cubicle all day, but I just wasn't sure what it was. And then so when working with other coaches, I was able to discover what my purpose is and, really work towards that. And it all just made a lot of sense. And so since then, love I don't love the corporate work that I do. I mean, it's fine. It works, but I love the work that I do within the intuitive mindset coaching business that I run, within, the speaking that I do, within the writing that I do, because it's an opportunity for me to create bigger impact, and something that I always knew I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how. And so, in discovering the purpose, it was actually, I think, the key to really finding the joy in life.
I love that. I think your story resonates with me, and I know so many people in the audience because it's like we were sold this vision of what success looks like.
Yeah.
And that may be true for a handful of people, or maybe the majority of people. I don't know. But it certainly wasn't true for me. And it's not true for you. And it's not true for several people in the Create a Life You Love community. And so we find ourselves stuck on that hamster wheel, like you're talking
Yes.
about, just beating your head against the wall every day, being like, I'm supposed to be happy. I did everything I should do. What's missing?
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
everything everyone else told me should make me happy and what I should do and should. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what do I want here,
Hmm.
right? I love that you found that, um, and that you did what you needed to do. You did the work. You mentioned through coaching to
Hmm.
find your purpose and really step in. And now you are out there making a massive impact with so many people. And it's amazing. I know
Thank
you
you.
have a really amazing podcast and you write and you're out there speaking and just sharing. And so it's really exciting to,
Thanks.
yes, I love it. So, tell us, what are some of the tips that you have to for other people to create a life that they love?
Yeah. So I think that it's interesting because what you touched on, Chantel, is very much the key tip, right? So, number one, I think we were the stories and the beliefs that we hold on to must be reevaluated. So it came with us from our past, right? So our childhood, and it served its purpose to a certain extent. And then now where we are in our lives, if we're finding that purpose or that definition of success or the definition of who we are and our truth, if it doesn't serve us anymore, then it's time to reevaluate, to let go what doesn't serve us and be comfortable with the fact that we're not going to know every single step of the way. We're not going to be able to see in a crystal ball like everything that's supposed to happen, right? We just don't have that level of clarity anymore. And I think we lost that pretty much once we graduated from college and got our first job, right? So everything else that we do now is a creation mode. However, if we're not letting go of the past that doesn't serve us, then it's very difficult to create something new that we could love even more, that could open up even more possibilities for us if we're not willing to take that risk, if we're not really, willing to take that next step. So to sum it up, number one, it's to reassess where you are today. It's to redefine your level of success, or to redefine what success means for you. And it's really to go, and when you're doing that, it's really like questioning every single aspect of yourself and see if it still holds true. And if not, then what does hold true? And then it's also then to be bold and be okay with the fact that you're not going to know every single step of the way, and to take that first step. And then, it's going to seem scary at first, but then after you take it, you're going to say like, wow, this really isn't scary at all. It's really exciting. And then you're going to get comfortable, and then you take that next step, and then you take the next step. And so it's in taking those steps forward that you're going to get closer to the life that you truly love, and the purpose that you serve, and everything, like, and all the good stuff that you and your guests have talked about in this group.
Absolutely. Getting out of that comfort zone is so important, and it is terrifying. We've been raised, get good grades, go to college, get married, have kids, get a job, work,
Yes.
retire, die. Like, woohoo,
Yeah.
success, good job. And so to deviate from that path, it's scary because it's unknown,
Hmm.
but it's also scary because not a lot of other people are doing it. Unless you have family and friends that are in the entrepreneurial space
Yep.
doing something different, yeah, you are just like this person out here on your own
Yeah.
until you find those communities like this where you can
Yeah.
then connect. So I love that you address that it really does take bravery and getting out of your comfort zone. And then, really, that conscious thought of asking, is this serving me? Is
Hmm.
this the life that I want? Am
Yeah.
I living a life that I love? Because until you actually stop and ask yourself, you're just on that
Repeat.
hamster wheel,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then humans are habitual by nature. We react instinctively because it's always the way that we've reacted. But if, like you said, if we paused, if we were intentional about the decisions that we made, if we were to consciously make the choices that align with our values, and the values that we decide today, right? Not so much the values that we were given when we were younger, as well as that align with the purpose that we've decided today, in terms of what our purpose is today, tomorrow, overall, then that is really, important in order for us to really move forward with life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, and it's amazing that, we're raised with values and we're given beliefs and our identity that keeps us safe and raises us into the adults that we are. And then at some point, the beautiful thing is we get to look around and say, okay, what's
Yeah.
serving me? Where do I want to go with this?
Yeah.
And everything was designed to keep us safe, and it did. But then how safe do we want to be going forward?
Yeah.
How happy does safe make us?
Yes. Yes. And and it's interesting because the stories that we were told to keep us safe, like, for example, look both ways before you cross the street, otherwise you're going to get hit by a car and die, right? Like, they did serve a purpose, right? But they were also based out of the storyteller's own experiences, own beliefs, and if we take it into a different context in terms of the stories that were created to keep us safe, then we start to look at, well, where is that source of information actually from, and in what energy was it created from, right? Was it created from fear, or was it created from, actual possibilities that exist in this world, and encouragement, and, love? And so when we start to look at that, and we start to kind of just tear it apart, like rip it apart and really dissect it, then you start to see that what we were told wasn't necessarily true, and that it's actually based off of lies that other people have told, or experiences that other people have, had. But their experiences doesn't have to be our truth. Our truth is our own, decision, right? So I think it's really important to really be able to dissect that too.
100%. I totally agree. And if you think back, like generationally, like if you were raised by somebody who was raised during the Depression, the Great Depression, I mean, obviously, their childhood was brought up like with a lot of scarcity mindset, and
Yeah.
that was reality.
Yep.
They're not, and so the money doesn't grow on trees. That stuff, like those thoughts and that scarcity mindset still really permeates our generation. And so it takes a minute to say, wait a minute, is that serving me? Like,
Yeah.
again, back to that, is that what I want to continue operating my life around?
Yeah. Yeah. And sorry, now I have a throat tickle. Sorry.
It's contagious over Zoom. I
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
know.
um, so if I could share a story, Chantel, it's really interesting because I had put this on your calendar months ago, as you mentioned, right? And we had talked about like what the topic of the discussion would be. And the way that the universe works is amazing because embodying your truth is actually something that has been top of mind lately in my life too. And it's been what I've been talking about as well. And just to share a story that happened just 2 weeks ago. So in corporate, I work in a very male dominated industry. So I report into a manager or managers, men. I report into men, and it was a recent transition from my previous group into this new manager into this new group reporting into this manager. So I'll call him like Bob. So Bob, ever since I moved in, has always held the belief and has shared with me over and over again that I shouldn't speak out against, not speak out, but I shouldn't challenge C-suite executives, that I shouldn't speak up um, in situations where my counterparty or the person I'm speaking to is a senior level of executive. And because it could come back and haunt my career, it could come back and really hurt my career, right? That's what he said. And, it's interesting because when I look, and that conversation happened almost a year ago. And when I look at every single conversation since then with him, he very much holds on to that belief. Like anything I say, it doesn't get heard. It doesn't, it's just dismissed. If he doesn't agree with it, I'm wrong, he's right. So it's very much that mentality, which is interesting because the way I got to where I am in my career is because I do speak up. I don't care who's in the room. I'll do it in a very professional and polite way, but the title doesn't impress me, nor does it intimidate me when it comes to things like that. And so, and it's a very interesting perspective, right? So the other day, 2 weeks ago, I had very much of a frustrating conversation where he just decided that he was going to come relay a message that wasn't necessarily pleasant. And then when I, tried to speak up and explain the situation and explain where I was coming from, it fell on deaf ears. And it was like extremely frustrating. And I even said, because I was getting a little worked up, and he's like, well, you don't have to get defensive about it. I was like, I'm actually not defensive, but what I am getting is very frustrated that you're not hearing me. Like in this conversation, I'm not being heard. And for me to say something like that was very much, it's not normal. I don't normally use like coaching language, at work. But it's interesting because then it reminded me, it was very much of a trigger. So to use coaching language, it was very much of a trigger. And it was very much putting me at a level of discomfort because I was known as the troublemaker. Does that make sense? Like I'm the troublemaker. I speak up. I make my opinions heard. I am the troublemaker. So like I should just conform and, like conform and be silenced and just say, yes, sir, may I have another, right? Like that's kind of the message that I've gotten. And it's really interesting because I've had to very much get comfortable because that is, that is the truth of who I am. I am not one to, I maybe have been in the past, but since finding my voice, since understanding what my purpose is, since understanding who I serve and how I serve, I have not been okay with not voicing something when something is wrong, right? Like not giving, I haven't been okay with not giving the people who don't have a voice and a voice, right? Like I need to give them that voice. I need to speak up and be able to like help the situation. And I'm not saying I'm like Robin Hood or a hero, but it's just innate within that, like, I come out and say it. But the problem is that, and it's not a problem, the situation is that when you can't sit down, when you can't be silenced, when you can't conform, you, and that is who you are an inconvenience. You are going to be seen as the troublemaker. You are going to be that person, right? That's like, oh my gosh, she's so emotional. She's so whatever it is. But the problem is that if you deny that part of who you are and you allow for the beliefs of others to dictate how you behave, then the problem is that the purpose that you're meant to serve will never be served in the way that it was meant to be served, if that makes sense. And so I think in looking at it, it was very uncomfortable. And every single time it happens, it's very uncomfortable. But it goes back to all of the things that we were just talking about. What am I, and this person who I'm supposed to sit down and shut up and look pretty and not say anything and be respectful, that very much aligns with what my mom taught me when I was, growing up. And, it's like the sit there and be obedient and don't speak up and respect authority, like that, it's very common in the Asian culture too, right? So it's kind of getting out and stepping out of the cultural norm. So that's the past, that's looking at that and saying, well, that doesn't serve me. I'm not, I guess I'm Asian, but I'm not that Asian. Like I'm not that norm, right? And so who am I? What serves me? And how do I want to move forward? Because could I really be comfortable with keeping my mouth shut? Could I really be comfortable with allowing somebody to, first of all, tell me to shut up because I'm never comfortable? And then, and then like not being able to serve the purpose that I'm serving. So, I just, it's such an interesting situation. And I love the fact that the universe delivered it like 2 weeks before we're talking so that I can kind of share a real life example here. In the sense that like, I think sometimes our truth isn't comfortable, but that doesn't mean it's not joyful or it's not worth living. Does that make sense? And I feel, because imagine, and this was what I was thinking the other day too. Imagine if Rosa Parks had sat at the back of the bus, right, where she was supposed to sit. Imagine if she didn't take a stand, because I'm pretty sure she was an inconvenience and, you know, whatever it is, right? Like she ruffled the feathers and made the waves on that bus with the bus drivers and with the other other bus sitters or users, right? Imagine if she never did what she did. Imagine if Martin Luther King never said what he said. Imagine if all of the activists and all of the leaders and all of the people who created the path forward for us allowed for others to tell them to sit down and shut up. Like, where would we be today? And I think that's why embodying our truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is so important when we're looking at creating this life of mission, this life of purpose, which drives us, right? It's this life that we can look forward to rather than be afraid of.
Yes, I love that. And I love just how passionate that you get while you're talking about that. And yes, how the universe works and aligns everything in perfect timing is just always amazing to me. What a great example, because how many of us, I was raised in a military family, and so it's very much, I have great respect for authority
Yeah.
and all the things. And so, just like you, I can voice my opinion in a respectful, professional manner. But no, I'm not going to sit down, shut up, and look pretty.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Especially when you have something to say, why should we? Because it makes the other person uncomfortable. But then
Mhm.
that's not my problem and that's not your problem, especially if we do it with integrity, right? Like, I'm not saying you go up to somebody and say, I hate you and you're ugly. Like, that's not with integrity. But,
Right.
but if you're, if you're sharing something, if you're sharing your truth, if you're looking to make that impact and you're doing it for the greater good of everybody, then it's worth getting uncomfortable with, even though, you know, it's your truth, right? It's your truth, and it won't always be comfortable. And I think and I think, to be honest, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, or maybe one of the biggest, I don't want to call it lies because I don't think anybody really lied, but it's like one of those unwritten, unstated inconveniences about what we do as coaches, about the people that we work with. It's like, if you're meant to do big things, you're gonna make big waves, because little pebbles make little waves, big boulders make huge waves, right? And so you got to just really get comfortable with the fact that some people will like surfing and other people won't.
I agree. Yeah. Different can be perceived in a variety of ways. I'm very blessed to have an incredibly supportive support system through my family and friends. Like, they don't get it, but they're not trying to like sabotage me or keep me down. But that's not always the norm. The people around you can see you bettering yourself, and that's a reflection on them of things they're not doing, and so they want to like pull you back down because they're not ready to change and you're making them look bad, right?
Yeah, yeah. You're making them do more work that they don't really want to do.
Or they're
Yeah,
not ready for.
exactly.
We're all at different points of our journey, and it's all going to look different. So not being ready to do something, not a problem. Be where you're at. You'll get there or you won't. It's your journey. You decide. But to purposely sabotage someone else because they're going after their dreams, like, that's when we
Different. Yeah.
start analyzing relationships and cutting people off.
Yes, yes. Totally agree.
Yes. So, have you had to experience any of that? I've been very fortunate, but I know I hear in all the circles that it's a pretty common.
You mean in terms of people sabotaging your progress? It's interesting because I've actually had coaches do that.
Mm,
So,
really?
I've had coaches, actually just really one or two, but I've actually had experiences with coaches that, felt, I think the fact that her students were expanding and capable of expanding past where she was, um, I think made her feel very insecure. And so I wouldn't say that she naturally gravitated to sabotaging people, but I think it definitely triggered her in a way that was hurtful. And also kind of, it was, but I'll say this, it was a lesson I needed to learn as well, right? And in terms of standing up, reclaiming my power, not giving it to her as I was doing, and I saw that. But it also probably could have been done in a different way. Like, I'll put it that
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, but what a good lesson for you to work through on the receiving end. But then as you
Yeah.
start coaching, to be able to process through that and be like, hey, if my student surpasses me, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, let's cheer them on. And
Yep.
I am in the education field. And so it's funny, like, to just think, like, okay, so if a kindergartner did like an awesome artwork, like, I'm not going to be like, see what an awesome teacher I am.
Right.
I'm not going to try to like take credit for it or be like, oh my gosh, that was better than something I could do. Let's hide it or put them down,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
so if
exactly. Be
you,
like,
yeah, you
yeah,
wouldn't do that in that situation. So why would you do that
in a
when you're coaching
coaching,
adults?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then they become, it's interesting because then they become your competition, or you become their competition. And then but there is no competition in this space, right? Like, we all serve so many people that are available to us, and in different ways.
I love that. And there's so much strength in collaboration.
Yes.
Every person I've collaborated with, it has brought on something way better than I could have done on my own,
Yeah.
right? I've
Same.
never felt competition with anybody, and maybe I'm
Yeah.
just naive, but I've been very, very blessed just to have really amazing people enter in my sphere.
Yeah. And that's important. So definitely keep that sphere going.
Yes, definitely. Awesome. Um, so as we kind of start winding down, any other tips to help people embody their truth?
No, I think, I think just being comfortable with who you are, accepting your differences. I don't think there's any one of us that is exactly the same. And I know it's cliche. We are all snowflakes, right? That fall from the sky, etc. We're all different, but that is exactly what we are. Like there's billions of people in the world. Not there's none of us that are exactly the same. And if you think about it, even twins, identical twins are not 100% identical. And so it's okay to be different. And I think to truly embody your truth and so that you can really get comfortable in your skin and enjoy and be present and love the life you live, it's so important to accept who you are. And and it's okay. Like, I don't look like a supermodel and I'm okay with that, right? You don't have to be, nobody expects you to be. Um, so, there's those little things I think that just will make life a lot easier.
I love that. Everything you've shared has just been wonderful, amazing, and in perfect
Thank you.
timing and alignment. So, yes, yay, universe.
Yay, I know. I was like, it's so funny because like when you reached out and it was embodying the truth, I was like, oh my goodness, this is perfect. Thank you, universe, because I have the perfect example. So yeah, this is great. Thank you so much again for having me. So nice to reconnect with
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. So, I do like to ask all my guests if they have any daily non negotiables.
Daily non-negotiables. That's a great question. Sleep. Sleep is a daily non-negotiable.
Love it. Love it. Do you aim for a certain like amount, like 7 hours, or just
No, because I find that the hours don't matter to me as much because I can sleep 7 hours or I can sleep 11 hours and I may still feel tired depending on the quality of the sleep. But I think it's just, yeah, it's getting that night's rest, really being able to disconnect and decompress from the day. And that's oftentimes I fall asleep just hanging out with my little girl. So like that's my time. That's like, quality time there too. So it's a nice, I think, benefit, like killing two birds in one stone situation.
absolutely. I love it. I've been studying a lot about sleep lately, just in the books that I've been reading, that it's
Nice.
been a big topic. And so, yeah, I'm just learning a lot and just really like sleep is so amazing. Like what it does for our brain, what it does for our
Yeah.
body, what it, like everything.
Yeah. Our
I'm like,
bodies
sleep is
heal
so
during that
important.
time.
Yes,
It's like amazing what sleep can do for us.
it is. And here we are, American culture. I'll sleep when I'm dead. And it's like
Yeah.
hustle, hustle, grind, grind. It's like, no, it's not working for me.
No. And then I can't enjoy the sleep if I'm dead. I like enjoying my sleep.
Yes, I love it. And so, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So I think if I remember correctly, you're gonna post my Instagram handle. So I'm at Jean F. Tien on Instagram, also Jean Dash Tien on LinkedIn, and then I have a website. So if all else fails, it's HTTPS and then it's jeantien.com. It's simply jeantien.com. So that's just the easiest way. And I also have a podcast, which Chantal was a guest on a few months ago. So yeah, it's jeantien.podbean.com. So a couple of different ways. Yeah, a few different ways to reach out to me.
Perfect. And I've got all those in the comments for anybody with us live, and I'll get them in the show notes and the replay
Awesome.
notes. So, wherever you are watching or listening, you can reach out and connect with Jean. And
Yes.
you've graciously offered 30 days to one of your free courses. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, since we're talking about embodiment of truth, it really does start with being able to accept ourselves. And that ultimately leads, in my perspective into self-love. And so I'd love to offer your listeners in your community 30 days to the self-love challenge that I did, or a course that I did a while ago. And it really is just kind of resetting and refocusing your attention onto yourself so that you can really start to appreciate you the way that you make time for everybody else.
I love that. And so, how can they get a hold of that? Should they message you or?
Yeah, if they want to message me, that's perfect. And then or I can actually even send you like the link if you want to include
Okay,
that. Yeah.
perfect.
Yep.
Yes, we will get that all linked up for you guys. And yes, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Anything else before we shut her down for the evening?
No, no, thank you again for having me. And, for anyone who's listening or catching the replay, don't hesitate if you have any questions.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Jean. Always a pleasure connecting. And thank you, everybody, for joining us either live or on the replay. Be sure to go connect with Jean. Check out that 30-day self-love course. Who can't use a little bit of self-love or a lot of it? And if you got value out of this episode, we just ask that you please share it with someone you feel would benefit from it. And leaving podcast reviews is so very appreciated. And you can do that quickly and easily from any device by going to ratethispodcast.com/Khalil. That's CALYL for Create a Life You Love. We'll get that linked as well. And when you go check out Jean's podcast, be sure to leave her a review also.
Yay.
Yay. It's like a little warm hug. We love
Yes.
reviews.
Yes.
And so next week, we will be chatting with Valerie Stansel. She is an author, life coach, and speaker. She's going to be sharing her story of finding her purpose through tragedy. So you'll be able to find us right here in the Create a Life You Love community or catch it on your favorite podcasting platform. Same time, same place next Tuesday. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the journey. Thank you for listening to the Create a Life You Love podcast. I would love to hear from you about your biggest takeaways. Share them with me on Facebook or Instagram at Create a Life You Love Coaching. If you love this podcast, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. That's it for now. Enjoy the journey.